started running some kind of Anthony Prattley, Tony DeMeo kind of combination stuff. Just trying to get out to the perimeter as much as we could. Before that, I was at J High School, where I got my start, where I went to school myself. 2001, they were looking for a freshman coach. My good friend Mark Bonnevie suggested, "Why don't you come try it out?" So I jumped on board. Got to coach a great freshman group that had Justin Wells in it, who turned out to be just probably still the best quarterback that I've ever had an opportunity to coach. The next year, 2002, Mark Bonnevie got the head coaching job at Jay and made me his offense coordinator. And for the next 4 years, we kind of tinkered and we went from a double slot kind of run-based triple option offense to more of a shotgun spread, throwing the ball, a little bit more than we ran the ball, and probably more, just about as much as anybody back then. My college days were at Plymouth State, where I was a tailback in an I formation, and probably why I became a lover of the passing game is because I know how hard it is to run the ball over and over and over again between the tackles. And for what little gain you get, how much effort has to go into that. And teams and coaches that coach that kind of style are great, and I think more power to you. But I wanted to try to find ways to get the ball into space, and that's what I've been trying to do since I've been a coach and an offensive coordinator. Guess that's about it.
Awesome, Coach. Coach Lip.
Yeah, B.L. Lippert. I'm the head football coach now at Coney High School. I have been for the last 5 years, was an assistant for 10 years prior to that. And we've been in the spread since 2008. We had Luke Dunkley, who was a sophomore, and he, presented some opportunities athletically, zone read stuff. And I'm not sure I really have a role model as far as the spread is concerned. Just kind of stuff I picked up over the years. But I think Ed Mysteri, when I was at Colby, just his overall coaching style made his players believe in him, and some of the stuff that he did there influenced me as a coach. And so we're more run heavy this year than we've ever been. We've had years where we're 70% pass, 30% run, and kind of dependent upon our skill and kind of what we're looking to do. But we're more tight end now than we've been ever before too. So a few different variations over the last decade.
Awesome, JMac. JMac, you want to go?
Yep, Jason McLeod, head coach, Portland High School. Kind of been around the block a little bit. Started coaching when I was 19 years old. Back when Kevin Cooper started at Bowling Eagle as entry level into the coaching world sort of thing, and matriculated up over the years, and been really lucky to coach under staffs like Kevin's, but also for me, Mike Landry. Very big influence for me, maybe not necessarily in the pass game, but just in terms of innovation and trying new things and not being afraid of kind of pushing the envelope and doing different things there. And then in his untimely illness and death, I took over from his head coach at Westbrook High School. Did that for a couple of years, kind of got my feet wet in some really, really strange ways, but trying new things over the years when I was there. Became the offensive coordinator at Wyndham High School in 2008 under Matt Perkins. And really that's when kind of, I was able to, be a little more experienced, be kind of harnessed in some of the things I'm doing, but also generate some more success on the field finally by that point in time. So, Matt was a real big influence on me, especially in the O-line stuff and trying not to, go too fast, what you want to do with skill guys, but also getting the linemen involved and simplifying things there. But yet dressing things up exotically with formation, shifts, trades, looks, all that stuff that, me and Matt really saw eye to eye on. Eventually, won a state title in 2009, left there, went to Portland High School, became an assistant coach under Jim Hartman. Learned a lot there too. And then when he left for Yarmouth, I took over there last year as a first year head coach at Portland High School. In terms of my influence, I think the biggest influence for me was, I can't even tell you how long ago, it was probably about 10, 11 years ago when I piggybacked on a trip with the Bates coaching staff to Villanova. And I stayed with the or I clinked with the Villanova coaching staff for about a day and a half under Brian Flynn, who's the wide receivers coach there, and got a bunch of stuff off there that I still use to this day and able to build off of. So that was really one of my big influences for me. And here I am now, 2020, second year head coach at Portland High School. So thank you.
Awesome, Coach. Coach Coop.
Okay, Kevin Cooper, head football coach, Bonnie High School, 22 years here. Grew up in Fairfield, Maine, played for my dad at Lawrence. Still definitely the biggest influence that has affected me as a coach is him. Played at Dartmouth, played on defense, started my coaching career in college at Maine Maritime, then went to Ohio as a GA, back to UMaine on the defense side of the ball. Went to Bonnie in 98, decided we were going to pound the rock. Two back, I formation, power, ISO, toss, fullback trap. Beat our head against the wall for a few years. Started to get into some shotgun in 03, but we weren't very good at it at the beginning of the year. We thought we had a Q at that time, and some of you may remember a kid by the name of Matt O'Donnell, who as a senior becomes a Fitzpatrick Trophy finalist. So we thought we had a guy that could do it. Didn't work out early part of the season. Went back to the I. And the pivotal moment to send us to the spread is we were playing Westbrook and JMac. You might have been on the staff because I think it was the Mage's second year.
Yep, I remember that game, Kevin. Thanks for bringing it back up. Appreciate it.
And we were playing at our place, and we're running up and down the field, running ISO and power because we at least had some big strong cats. And once we got in the red zone, Mage would dial up a blitz, and all of a sudden we'd be in third and long, and then couldn't convert. And that was like the whole game. And finally, Westbrook takes the lead with about 4 minutes left. We turn it over. They score again. So now they're up like 10. So we got to score twice. We had to put the ball in our quarterback's hands. And by that time, Matt O'Donnell had become a pretty good player. And we went to the shotgun. And we basically had, I think, 3 things in the package. We had Q counter, off a ride fake. We had like 3-step, and we had sprint out. And that was pretty much it. And those are 3 plays. And we just let Matt go, and we have to go with tempo. And I'm pretty much, because we didn't have any call systems, I'm yelling to the plays from the sidelines pretty much. And Matt somehow leads us back to a win. And so we decided to go to the spread. And after that, I remember what influenced me was I videotaped that winner. I videotaped, imagine this, right? VHS tape, hooked up to my television set at my home. I videotaped Northwestern in their bowl game and Utah in their bowl game, and then basically broke down their stuff. They were both spread to run teams. Utah was Urban Meyer at the time. Northwestern was running zone read, tackle wrap, and that became the basis for our offense. In 04, we went to it. Matt O'Donnell was a dude that year. As I said, Fitzpatrick Trophy finalists, our first state championship year, and we haven't looked back since with the spread.
Awesome. Love me some Urban Meyer for sure. Coach Green, on you now.
Sir, Sean Green, head football coach at Cape Elizabeth. Last year was my first year there. I was born in Maine, but I was raised in Massachusetts in a tiny town called Littleton. I went to Littleton High School, and that's where my career kind of got started. As a junior in high school, when I was 15, 16 years old, I was one of the younger kids in my grade. I started coaching my little brother's AYF team. At the time, we were true double wing, no splits, power, super crisscross, and trap. That was pretty much the extent of our playbook. My senior year, we ended up going to a Super Bowl. We played a team called Putnam Valley Vocational School. They had about 1,400 kids. We had about 450. It's just the way things worked in Mass back then. And we had a shotgun package in. And the whole first half, we couldn't do anything on offense. We went down 24-6 at halftime and came out with spread probably, I think, a little bit towards the end of the third quarter. And all of a sudden we were back in the game. We eventually lost quarterback through a pick on like the +40 right on the sideline with about 40 seconds left. But I think that was kind of the moment that our program started molding to spread. So after that, I continued with my youth coaching career there. I was a terrible student, so couldn't really go to college right off the bat. So a couple offers got pulled and things like that. But I ended up coaching the 6th and 5th at the time, and 7th and 8th. and started nagging my head coach, my mentor at my alma mater, pretty much on a weekly basis about bringing me up to the high school. In 2011, I finally got brought up to the high school. At first, I was a defensive coordinator on the JV squad, and just kind of a spotter, eyes in the sky. And then by 2013, I was finally promoted to the offensive coordinator position. And by that time, we were full spread, full no huddle tempo team. First year, we made a trip to Gillette. It was pretty successful. We had a state championship win there. The next year, we went back, had a quarterback go down on the first drive series, and wasn't as fun, but had a phenomenal experience down there. As far as influences, my number one influence is Mike Lynn. He was the head coach and athletic director at Littleton. Him and I, we worked really well together because we're polar opposites. He's, at the time I was a very high energy kid. And I wanted to run everything that Urban Meyer was running on TV, as you guys allude to. I was kind of growing up during those years, and he took a little bit of that, but at the same time he calmed me down, and he just taught me a lot of important lessons about football. Besides that, I ended up actually going back to school at one point. I played 1 year at Bridgewater State. I started there. I left. My mother got sick after that year, but it was a great year, and I met a coach there. He's the offensive run game coordinator and the offensive line coach, Rainey Moyen, and he just really opened my eyes to offensive line play. I thought I knew, just a little bit about line play, and he just kind of blew my mind. And he was also phenomenal, just a phenomenal OC in general. So that's kind of my story. As far as Massachusetts goes, I moved up here to Maine in 2016. I took a job at Deering, just as an offensive and defensive assistant. I was a spotter there. Had a good year. I met Coach Klish, who's my assistant head coach now, one of my great friends. So very, very thankful for that. Coached with Coach Hardy down at Deering as well. I learned a lot from him. Really excited for him to get his start this year too. From there, I left Deering after 1 year. I coached a youth team, 7th and 8th grade team, which was pretty refreshing going back. And then after that, I actually got hired last year at Cape Elizabeth. I was temporarily on JMac staff over in Portland for about 2 minutes, and then went on over to Cape Elizabeth. And yeah, that's kind of my story.
Awesome. Well, we'll get right to it, fellas. We've got a lot of good questions here that have come in, so I'm just going to start bouncing around and kind of give some guys. We'll kind of start in pairs. So I'm going to go Friedman and JMac first on this one. We'll all the questions at first here are going to be centered around tempo. So for Matt and Jay, what do you feel the true advantages of going no huddle? As Coach Witt put it, it looks kind of cool, but what are you actually getting out of it, and what are you trying to accomplish by playing at such a high tempo? So Matt, we'll start with you.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with looking cool for me, because sometimes when you first try to go no huddle with a new group, you look anything but cool. I mean, it's kind of chaos. Honestly, for me as a coach, I don't know if I could go back to huddling 100% of the time and be effective as a play caller. I like that look at the defense. And as much as teams now, even in high school, will try to maybe shift or something like that after you maybe get into your cadence to try to throw you off, I think that initial look at a defense, just as far as what kind of structure you're going to see, for me personally helps me out. It's how I base my, how I base my play calling on, how I base my call sheet.
JMac?
Great answer, Matt. First and foremost for us, it's, a lot of times you're able to see the defense declaring what they're going to do, their intentions. And you can start playing games off of that. And it's almost like it's a situation where the last guy holding the marker may be successful in a certain situation or play. One kind of caveat to add to that is, nowadays where you got to re-engineer how you coach the game, because the student athlete today is a little bit different than he was 10, 20, 30 years ago, even 40 years ago. You're giving ownership to the players in a lot of these different things. So one of the questions I posed to Matt or Coach Hathaway prior to this roundtable was I wanted to get people's input on their communication system and what has been successful. And for me, what's been successful is giving players ownership opportunities to whether it's a signal or a code word or even how we do things. If they take the ownership of something like that, they may tend to, have more, more, more guys in terms of like how well they're going to work for you and whatnot. It's just that one little added caveat to get those kids going a little bit more for you, especially today where, again, I feel the student athlete's far different than he was just 10, 15 years ago now. And then the last thing is you hit the nail on the head with a word, just changing tempo. For us, we're not an all the time no huddle type team for various reasons. But when we do that, it's an avenue for us to condition and practice. The kids like that better than getting on the line. Many years ago, I went to a clinic, and one of the advantages of the advantages of going fast, no huddle, and they equated math into the equation. And one of the statistics they gave us was the amount of yardage you save walking from breaking a 7-yard huddle to just being on the line. And he equated that to saving over, I think it was like 2.2 miles per game that you don't have to run and exhaust your offense on by going no huddle. So, if you take bits and chunks of that, you're giving your offense the advantage of being in much better shape than your opposition when you're on the field. So those are three things that really kick out to me is, the defense declaring, giving your players ownership of things, and then, the advantages of not exerting your offense as much as you might think it is by going and change the tempo.
Yeah, I would throw in there too, just the ability to wear down the defense. That's a hard thing for other teams to simulate in practice, and a chance to wear down the opposition. That certainly helps. And I also just think it's great to get more reps out of practice because you're a tempo team. Feel like our team periods are a lot more productive, and we get a lot done that way. So, Coach McLeod mentioned on going fast, and Coop, you and I can maybe kind of take this one. When you really want to go fast, what do you do with your communication? And obviously you don't have to tip away the secrets or whatever, but just in general, what are some things that you guys do to communicate to be able to go fast?
Yeah, so we're not a fast team. Like, that is not part of our no huddle philosophy. We're not trying to make the defense really struggle with our tempo. The vast majority of the time, we're probably gonna, in a 40-second clock, we're probably gonna get the clock down to about 15 seconds or so before we snap it. But if we want to go fast, we obviously have that ability. So, if you're a huddle team and you want to go fast, it's drastically changing what you do. If you're a no huddle team, even if you're more of a moderate tempo, it is not really a drastic change to go fast. 2-minute drill is our offense. So, it's like it's like we don't have to worry about big changes because we need to go fast if the situation dictates it. When we go fast, we have a couple different ways. We have ways to make one call and repeat the play, which I think is the easiest one. So and we'll use this often when we just had a successful play. So if we just gashed a team with, say, a 20-yard run, we can run the same play pretty easily, pretty fast. So hopefully you catch the defense. They've just been kind of hitting the mouth. They're a little stunned. Get them again really quick with a similar play. We can do the same thing with the same play in the other direction. So those two things kind of go in really early for us, so we can go fast that way. We can go fast with our passing game just by we have a handful of route signals that once the receivers see the route, they know what they're doing. The quarterback has to make one quick call to get the protection set done. And so we can go fast just signaling a route. And then the last way we'll do is we kind of started doing this more and more last year, a little bit the year before and last year. So we'll basically have some of our base stuff. So jet sweep. And so we'll have a term for that out of a certain formation, It'll always be the same direction. So it'll always be, last year I think it was jet sweep right, out of a twins left, tight end flanker right, running back offset to the tight end side, motion, jet sweep. Here we go. So we have one word that describes that, sets up everything. All we need to say is that word. And then we add a word to get us into empty and run a little quick look. And then we had a word to get us into two back power read. And so one word terms that we kind of built as the season went along. So basically, if you think of like one term, one play each week, and so by the end of the year, you have a pretty decent list. And when we practice those, we always practice them in sequence. So what we tell our guys is, if we ever want to do this, we're going to go with the first call first. So let's say that's jet sweep. Then we're going to go the second call. That's the empty quick look. The third call, we're going to run power read. And the way I set it up was, let's say we run a jet sweep to the right, and we're going to come back and we're going to look with our little quick look pass to the left. So for that way, we can kind of set it up so we're not, I don't particularly like to run jet sweep into the boundary. So we're going to set it up so basically we get on the right hash, and we can just scroll through that list. However long it is, it might be only three. It might only be 3 plays because it's the third week of the season. Maybe it's 6 plays. It's a little bit later in the season. So those are the kind of ways that we've developed to go fast. We won't do it in our regular offense. We've got to coach up and get ready certain calls that will get us into a second play or a third play fast.
Yeah, I would say, for us, we try to play fast a fair amount of the time. We probably play fast more than we take our time. We like to get the call in pretty quickly and get the other team to have to line up quickly because it certainly decreases the looks that you're going to see on the other side. And like I said before, it's hard for teams to simulate that. So we try to go pretty fast. The base plays that we have, our jet sweep, our trap game, a couple of play actions, a couple of 2x2, 3 steps, and a couple of trips combos. And then certainly mesh that we run all the time. And we probably got about a dozen plays that we start the year with where, we're pretty much 100% sure that everybody knows what those one-word calls are. We use one-word calls. We have some tags sometimes that go with them to make a variation of the play or to add a backside, a backside tag to a passing concept. But we've got about, anywhere from 12 to 15, and when we start the year, we're pretty comfortable with. And we really rep those out, and we kind of use, we have one-word code words for the plays, and we hand signal, and we have some boards as well, and we have some dummy hand signalers and some dummy boards, and we try to mix them up by series or quarter or half or however we want to do it, just so that teams aren't trying to pick it up. But it's been pretty effective for us. We started out with wristbands a long time ago, and we had 30 some odd plays on the wristband, and they were color coded, and we were yelling out a color and a number. And I've just found that verbal doesn't always work. If you get into a playoff game and it's a packed house and the crowd is loud, and you could be screaming your head off and the kids can't hear squat for what you're saying. So that kind of happened to us one time in a 2-minute situation. That was when we kind of made the switch over to the board and hand signal system. It takes a little bit of coordination because you got a lot of guys kind of around you, but I've got guys on each side of me, and I quickly give each one of them the play, and then they signal in, and the dummy guys are signaling in, and then we go from there. So, I think to play super fast, one of the things, and this is kind of a question I had, I'm going to go to Sean and DL on this. But one of the things we have difficulty with is changing formations and, getting our motions out. We're trying to do those a lot verbally, and it was really, really difficult for some of those same reasons. And we ended up going to, we take a backup quarterback. My youngest son did it this year, and we put all of the names of our motions on boards. He just held them up, and guys looked at it. And all of our kids look to the sideline. We try to get them to kind of run to the spot. We stay in the formation. When we're going to change formation, typically we'll sub, or it might be after a first down or an out of bounds or a penalty or something like that. But we're able to go pretty fast that way for the most part. think when we're cooking pretty good on a 40-second clock, we can get it snapped. Somewhere between 25 and 28 if we're going pretty quick. So, Sean and BL, what I would ask you guys is when you guys are tempo, how are you able to change the formation, and how are you able to communicate some of those things like motions or shifts or things like that are a little more difficult? I'll start with BL down there.
Well, this will be pretty easy. We almost never go tempo, other than 2-minute drill. We've got some one-word play calls we use, and those are typically either repeating the same play like Coop said, or we're in one formation and we run kind of 3 base plays based on the look we're expecting. So we've done some up-tempo stuff back when we had Ben Lucas, but even in that era we didn't do it a lot. I've just found that the communication from the sideline to the quarterback, I just find it important. Like I'm telling him every play when I'm giving him the call, hey, remind the running back he's hot on this, and I just feel like I need to tell him that. And it was kind of confirmed for me this summer in the Lobster Bowl. I was an assistant and I was communicating the plays to the quarterbacks from somebody up top. And on one of the plays that we called in, I wanted to remind the quarterback about something we changed, and he threw a pick and came over and said, yeah, I forgot we did, and I just thought that's needs to take place in practice, and we don't have as much time with these kids as colleges do. So I've never effectively been able to come up with signals that communicate everything we need to. We tag so many plays or slight variations that I just thought the investment to come up with either numbers, names, color, whatever it is, was just too much for us. And I also think like for us, when we go at a slower tempo, that it helps our defense out a little bit too. So like our guys aren't getting worn out on offense. We have so many guys that go both ways that if you're running backs, also your linebacker, he's getting worn out just as much as the defense is, which, at the college level, obviously that's not the case. So we don't do a lot of tempo. I know that's rare for spread teams. We don't go tempo, and we don't go no huddle. So I'm kind of the odd man out tonight.
Yeah, pretty good 2-minute drill, if I remember correctly, in 2013, though.
Yeah, we work on that, for a fair amount, because obviously we have to have that capacity. Like Coop said, if you're in a situation and you're a huddle team and you've never practiced it, that's going to look bad. So we definitely practice it, and we'll do it to change. I hate to say like the Patriots, but if you come out and you go 3 and out 3 or 4 times in a row, maybe just to change the cadence of the game, maybe you come out and do it. But in general, we just don't do it. And I know a lot of you guys have success with it. I just haven't done it. We haven't done it at Coney very much.
Coach Green, how about you guys with communication?
Yeah, for sure. Just to give some context on year one, no huddle was simply just a package for us over at Cape. But my whole career, we've been a full tempo team everywhere I've been pretty much. So I'll kind of go backwards here. We carry 3 no huddle packages. Our first we call Fire. Fire is really just a series of one-word calls, and those one-word calls determine everything. It's a concept, motion, trade, whatever it may be. It carries everything. Typically with those calls, we'll only do them to one side. So it'll be one side. So we won't flip that too much. With the Fire package, we if we think we want to build a shift and trade into it, we can. But for the most part, we pretty much just go as far as motion, and that's as far as we go with that. Our second fastest tempo is NASCAR, where we pick up the pace a little bit and get moving. With that, we do no check with me, and we really don't do any shift and trades with that either. We do motion, but really what we do is we're just trying to tempo, and we pick it and stick it. I'm primarily a hand signal guy and boards, and with Fire, at least you can give a call and you can rep that through the week. You're only doing a few of them, and you're able to build everything into it. But with NASCAR, I can't signal fast enough, I can't sign fast enough to get the shifts and trades and everything else into it. In our base package, just our standard no huddle, we have we have the ability to check with me, like you guys have talked about. One of the best advantages of no huddle, and shift and trade games, all that's available. And we are, we're hand signals, we're boards, as far as that goes. But yeah, that's kind of the gist of it for us. Where we can do everything out of our base tempo package, but NASCAR, we just go. And then our Fire one-word series, we can build shifts and trades if we think it builds some type of an advantage into it. You're muted, Mike.
Want to talk play calling for a couple minutes. We had a few questions on that some guys came up with. So I'm going to go. Let's go with Coop and JMac first. when you guys are calling plays, how do you assemble your play call sheet? Are you a down and distance guy? Are you kind of an answer sheet type of guy? And how are you going about that during the game? Start with JMac.
Well, I'll go back to 2004 when I was a 24-year-old offensive coordinator working for Mike Landry, and he goes to me, "What's that big piece of paper in your hand?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about? It's my call sheet. I got I got my 1st and 10, I got my 2nd and short, 3rd and long." He goes, "Put that thing in the friggin' rubbish." So I would sneak it behind my pocket in the games and kind of use it as a reference. And over the years, for me at least, it's gotten substantially smaller, and smaller. And I'll go back to my first year at Wyndham in 2008. Matt Perkins was a very simplistic guy. He still is, for that matter. But he was, for many years, he was 2 tight end, 2 flanker, under center, run inside, outside zone, 3-step and bootleg, and that's it. And he really didn't need a lot to reference when he was calling plays. I get there, and I'm still relatively young. I think I'm better than I really am. I think I'm a hot shot, and my play sheet progressively got bigger and bigger and bigger. And what I found was our players are really good, and I didn't need that sheet to reference as many times because the players made me look good. I can make a wrong call and then make me look good. So then, again, you're retooling, you're constantly trying to get better. And then I find that, the more challenges we may have with our roster, the bigger that sheet got, because I didn't want to put us in a situation where, setting our team up to fail. And, I always want the perfect play call. But by and large, for me, if I'm operating off an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and whether it's one-sided or two-sided, I find myself folding that and ripping it and crossing things off constantly throughout the game, where it's just mashed up by the end of the game. And, if we're successful, it's probably mashed up even more versus us not being successful because I'm trying to grab things from it. But for me, based on our opponent, there are situations where, the defense or our opponent's going to dictate where our emphasis is on each week. And I'll give you an example, like back at Wyndham, Bowling Eagle was always a real hard opponent for us. And we always found ourselves getting into more 3rd down situations. We got fewer 1st downs on our 1st down play or our 2nd down play against them as compared to other opponents. So for us, we worked a lot on 3rd down situations, whether it's 3rd and less than 5, 3rd and more than 5. And then, if you get above 3rd and, 10, 11, there's not really a lot of plays you can pick and choose from it. But for me, going back, I don't know if you guys read the Bill Walsh book, but, he set up the metrics of his play sheet very elaborate. But for him, it took the thought process out of his brain, where if he was trying to pick and pry his brain to pick a perfect play, he would just stop himself and look at the situation on his sheet and say, "Yep, we're going to run that play." Or in this situation, we're going to run that play. And then it allow you to develop a comfort level as the game got on, where you're looking at it less and less. So for me, I'm looking at it as a quick reference point if I'm flubbing over my words or I'm not comfortable with things. But I don't personally look at it, because the more I'm looking at, the less I'm looking at either our quarterback or our team or our defense or other things that I can really focus on for the game in itself. So that's a long-winded answer for me.
That's awesome. Coop?
Yeah, I've done the down distance thing in the past, but honestly, I don't use it, so I've gotten away from that. And so the way I set up my call sheet is I'm gonna have one side of my paper with our run game. I'm gonna have our run schemes that we typically do, and I'm gonna have how we've decided to best run those run schemes for that particular week. So going back to getting the game plan set. So hopefully by Monday night, Tuesday morning, I've got, say, the 3 ways we want to run inside zone. Whatever our formations are, whatever our movements are, those are the ways we want to run inside zone read. And then we're going to practice those during the week. And then I'm going to take right from our practice scripts and I'm going to basically just cut and paste onto my call sheet. So we've decided these are the ways we want to run the zone read this week. This is what we're going to practice throughout the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then I'm going to basically take that and put it right onto my call sheet. And I'm going to put it under the zone read category. So in a game, if I want to run a zone read, I just look right there. I've got the ways we practiced it, and that's what I can call. And so what I've found with the down distance thing is, you know, in a game, in a high school football game, there's really no way to predict what the opponent's going to do. We've played teams that, you know, we played a team a few years ago that is traditionally was a 4-4. They had shown early in the season some 5-2, and then they came out against us and they're in a 3-3 stack. So, like, all the work that you've done to figure out these are your base runs on first down or second and 1 to 7. These are your third down plays. All that is wasted. At least if a team does that, I can go back to our zone read, my zone read column. If I have to make a slight formation change, I can note that. And then when I want to run a zone read, I can just look there. You know, on the other side is our pass schemes. So I've got here are the ways we're going to run our quick game. Here are the ways we want to run 4 verts. Here, you know, and it's probably even shorter on that side because, you know, we're going to go into a game with maybe 2 ways to run 4 verts. We're going to go into a game to one formation on how to run what we're running our snag concept. So each one of those passing schemes, I can look when I want it. Here's what I want to do based on what we're seeing in that game. I can find that a whole lot easier. So I think that's simpler that way. I mean, I just look at it like, do I really need to have a section on 3rd and 7 to 10? I mean, like, I know what I want to do there based on how the game's going on. You know, if we're playing a team with a great run defense, we're going to throw it. If we're playing a team that we can get 7 by running the ball, I'm going to run it. Like, I don't know if you need like all those things. I think it's great for the college game when you can scout and you know that the opponent, here's what they do all the time in that situation. Then it's great. You can find it on your call sheet. Bang, you got time when the defense is on the field to make any adjustments to your call sheet. I think it's great at that level. High school, I don't think that's worth very much. So that's how we're going to set up the call sheet. That's how I'm going to call the game, and that's how I'm going to work back from the initial game planning phase.
Awesome. Coach Lipp, when you're in the game calling plays, how much attention do you pay to, or maybe what's your mindset even going into the game of, you know, how much am I going to run versus how much am I going to throw? You know, do you have, you know, some sort of idea, like I want to be 50-50 going in? And then also, you know, in terms of getting the ball in the hands of your best guy, is there a way that is there a way that you plan that at all? You know, like when you had Shostak, like I've got to get 2 plays a quarter to him or something like that. And do you prep that on your sheet somehow, or how do you go about it?
We typically on Sunday, by the end of the weekend, we have a play sheet of 24 to 28, you know, plays that we're going to kind of practice throughout the week. And sometimes that'll get whittled down to, you know, 22, depending on what it looks like during the week. And we operate from there. I don't really have it out very much. Sometimes I leave it in the coach's room and forget to put it in my pocket. But like, it's based on, for me, it's based on feel. Like, we have an idea, and I probably spend too much time worrying about what the defense does. I'm sure you're going to run jet sweep, but, you know, doesn't matter if they have 3 overhangs over there, you're going to run jet sweep, you know, and we don't really have a play that we hang our hat on. Like, we're going to run, you know, this no matter what until they stop it. We kind of game plan based more on what, you know, the defense has given us. And I'll notice we don't input our huddle data until like the off season offensively, which is too bad, but I just don't have time. And there'll be like I'll put offensive clips together. There'll be 15 or 18 plays in a row. We're in the exact same formation. So we're in trips right. And there must have been something that we liked that, you know, we just kind of kept running and different variations. And so, you know, we don't spend a lot of time, you know, worried about who's getting the ball. It's more for us based on, you know, the defensive look and what, you know, coverage they're playing, what front they're playing against certain formations. And we're trying to find, you know, like I said, a formation where we have 3 or 4 options and kind of operating from there. So certainly if you have a stud, yeah, you want to get him a touch regardless of, you know, what the look is. But for the most part, we're reacting more to, you know, kind of what we think's available. And yeah, most of our run games based off, inside zone stuff. So that's kind of our base run, but we don't look at pass run distribution. Like, I'm not worried if we throw it 50 times or run it 50 times. It's more responsive to what the defense does. And I felt, for us, I feel like it works out better. I know some people are, we don't care what the defense does. We're just going to run our offense, but we're kind of the opposite of that. We're more concerned with, what our advantages might be, whether it's a matchup we've identified, a skill guy, or just a hole in a zone. We're going to try to attack that and force them to change, and then kind of, operate based off that.
Coach Green, how about you on that?
Yeah, so last year, obviously, like I said, we were primarily a huddle team. I did have a call sheet, and I absolutely hated it. I had every situation pinned down and things like that, and I just figured, it would be best for me to be prepared. But in my young coaching career, it was a quick lesson. It's not how I like to operate. It's not how I operated when we did, when we were primarily a no huddle team. I do like to go in, obviously, with a plan and a couple different answers as far as, third down situations, red area, and obviously 2-point conversions and things like that. But with that said, like Coach Coop kind of alluded to, I did this to you this year, Half. You had seen 3-3 stack, and then we showed up in like a 53 crash solid look against you guys because we want to take something away. You never know what a defense is going to throw at you in the game as far as coverage, as far as fronts, even run fits blitzing. So, I really like to kind of let the game come to me, get a look at everything, and go from there. The one thing that you asked a moment ago, one thing that I do like to do, I do have a little cheat sheet when I go no huddle, just kind of, the key points we're trying to focus on the week. But on the backside of it, I like to have, I like to do what Coach Saban does, right? He says, call players, not plays. So I have on the backside, I have like my 3 dudes or my 2 dudes, however many dudes you have. Last year it was 1, Matt Laughlin, and it's just what plays we think we can gain an advantage with, and that's been a good helpful reminder over the years. But for the most part, you go in with hopefully a good scout package and and kind of let the game come to us.
Awesome. Coach Friedman, how about you when you're game planning and getting ready? How do you kind of organize your calls and carry them into the game?
So probably a little bit differently than some of the other guys. One of the things that I really do want to do is try to spread the ball out to the eligible guys, the 6 guys that can do something with the football on offense. Not to the point like during the game where we're counting carries or receptions or things like that, but I want to make sure that when we're putting our packages together that we have an option for every athlete. And mainly that's just because what everybody is saying here, you don't know what the defense is going to throw at you that night. So, maybe you think you're going to go in and exploit one area of the field that you think you have an advantage, and all of a sudden that's taken away. So you have to kind of have a plan B. So for me, that plan B is having plays for every personnel, every person, on the field. Other than that, I do have a call sheet. I script the field. So I've got plays coming out from, deep in our area, maybe out to the 20, then, between the 20s, it's kind of wide open. I might think about where we are on the field, definitely in high school football with how wide our hashes are. Got to take that into account. Do you want to be a formation into the boundary team? Do you want to be a team that, puts 3 receivers to the wide side of the field to try to stretch the defense? Sometimes that helps you. Sometimes that hurts you if you don't have a quarterback that can get it out to that number 1 receiver anyways. A lot of defenses just kind of X that guy out. Don't worry about him. So what I like to do is have an idea of where we are on the field, what my maybe 3 or 4 best plays would be. I don't really worry about down and distance, like Coach Lippert said, I don't care if we throw the ball 50 times or run the ball 50 times, as long as we're moving the ball and scoring points. But I do like to see the ball kind of spread out between our playmakers. I think the games that we do that are our best games.
I think, just for us in terms of the play sheet, I like to have a few things scripted. I think, similar to Coop in that, we're going to practice plays out of certain formations throughout the week. So, we'll have we this week we're going to run jet sweep out of these three formations because we think either there's a matchup that we can exploit or there's a part of the scheme that we can exploit. And, I just like to remind myself to use those formations so that I don't just line up in the Delaware set and just run that every single time. So I've tried to be better at that about, scripting formations early in the game and being conscious of, giving the defense a couple of looks early on, some 3x1, some empty, some 2x2. We try to get jet sweep off the page early and see how guys are going to do that so we can kind of get to our feet on that. We try to get some counter game early in the game as well for the same reason. And then we kind of go from there. And then I would also say, on third downs, I know what I want to call and I know the plays, but again, just formationally, I like to have it in front of me so that, I don't stumble in the call when we're trying to hurry. Obviously, you have your favorite formation, but, we try to mix it up week to week, in the same facet that, a guy like Sean's trying to keep us guessing by switching up things on defense. We're pretty conscious about trying to use different formations and different motions each week to give the defense something they haven't seen in the past, 2 or 3 films. So try to do that. And then the other thing I think is special situations. 2-point conversions for us this year. We didn't have a kicker that was really any good. And we were not going to kick unless we were up by at least 35. And it completely saved us in the state game. We made all but one of our 2-point conversions, and they didn't get any. And because of the way the kind of scores worked out, they were forced into going for them, and they were a team that probably liked to kick more. But I always have carry at least, this year we were probably carrying 6 2-point plays into every game just to be ready for that. And I'm going to talk about red zone here next. We had a lot of questions for guys on that, so I'll just go while I'm on it. In the same facet, not just the 2-point plays, but when we get down to about the 15 and the field, really starts to compress and really the width is more important, than the depth at that point. I like to have some plays, and we work a lot on Thursday on that from the 15 and in, and 2-point plays to get ready. And in that state game, that the last thing that we did in practice before that game was about 25 minutes of that, and it was really good for us. In terms of what we like to do down there, I know guys have different things. For a while we would try to get heavier and bring bigger guys into the game and get an H-back in the backfield and try to do that. And, it really didn't work for us very well because, that wasn't us. And it was allowing the defense to match up with, either heavier personnel or just a scheme, down there because they were less worried about covering the field. Personally, my favorite formation, down there is to go empty with 2 tight ends. And you've got tight end, with 2 wings and then an X receiver way out wide. And, you get teams that like to play mostly man down on the goal line. You get those 6-man fronts. Now you got 5 guys in coverage and you got 6 guys on the front. And we're probably going to motion somebody in jet motion and do something off from it. And that's probably been as good to us as anything down there. And we probably made some pretty good hay on the shovel option down there too. That's defensive ends get pretty horned up when you get down in there, and we tried to do it with some different looks and some different ways and kind of mix it up. But that's certainly always on the sheet. But because we run jet so well and jet's such a good play to stretch the defense horizontally, we feel like our jet package down there, especially out of that empty set, is difficult for teams to deal with. So. JMac, going to go to you next. When you get down there, 15 and in or 2-point plays, what do you like?
Yeah, no, great question. So a couple of things. So historically, I've had some sort of heavy, unbalanced package that we've had a certain set of plays off of. But the unique thing about it is, it's another package, and obviously you got to spend time on it on a pretty regular, consistent basis to get good at it. And in years past, we've had a heavy set, we've used it, we've done pretty well with it, whether it's on the goal line or a 2-point situation. But then if we kind of change things up, we change things up dramatically for the opposition as well. I go back to a game back in 2009 where, 2-point conversion game, it's on the line. We came out and we came out in 32 package, 32 personnel. Then the coach calls a timeout. We change to 10 personnel. Oh, I'm sorry. We come out in 32. We call a timeout. We don't like the look that they're giving us because they prepared for it. And that was our heavy package. We call a timeout. We change to 10 personnel, and the defense calls timeout. And now it's a chess match. And, for us, we were going to change personnel again. And we went to 12 personnel. And we ran a play where, there was multiple looks to it, and we hit the third look, and, we got it and converted. But ironically enough, we had spent about maybe 7 minutes on that situation in that week leading up to the game about just having to change 2-point plays or a goal line play off a timeout. And we told the kids, listen, we're gonna change personnel in this scenario. I think the ability to adapt and not be so pigeonholed into personnels or formations or packages really helps you out, because again, we run it like a heavy package, but we have the ability of getting out of that and running either something conventionally or not. And, I'll go back to this past season where, at Portland, we weren't a very good football team. And, we were changing a lot of things with our culture, changing a lot of things with how we ran things, coming from a team that's predominantly under center and had some success doing it. And we lose a boatload of talented kids. And now we're going to the spread. We go into a game with our only one of the year where, we had a bunch of 2-point conversion plays. Well, a couple of reasons why. One, we wanted to win. So if we're going to get put in a situation where, again, I mentioned Mike Landry before. Mike Landry was always a guy. He told me 100% of the time, if you get a chance to go for 2 in the win, do it. Don't waste any time kicking a PAT, because in high school, too many things can happen with that. And if you get a chance to win it right there, do it. So, in going on the 2-point conversion side, this past season, we're playing a team that we think we can win and muster a little bit of positivity in our season. And ironically enough, our stud kicker, I'm going to call him our stud kicker, because as a freshman, he went 63 or 63 in PATs and field goals combined. He wasn't available for that game. So we're going into that game where we're not going to have our backup kicker kick, and we're going to go for 2 every single possible time. First time we go for 2, we run this kind of zany play. We practice all week. The guy walks in the end zone untouched, and just gave us momentum as the game went along. It was a really tough matchup, but we still had that momentum early on and some success we built off of where we practiced it a lot, and we did well at it. So for me, going down there, you're going to have your plays you're going to hang your hat on, but the ability to adapt, change formations, change packages, forcing your opponent to prepare for those things too on a weekly basis is really big. And, again, I'll leave it right out there. These teams that run polecat after they score a PAT gives me fits. Why? Because I got to devote practice time every single week and day just to defend that. And, I think I saw John Moran's picture on the list of coaches there. In years past, he's had a wide open playbook running polecat, and it's been a pain in the rear end defending it. So when you're changing hats and looking about, defending that, I flip my hat again. I'm like, all right, as an offensive guy, how can I give the defensive guy fits? How can I water down their preparation to give me more success in that area of the field?
Coop, how about you in the red zone? What kind of philosophy you going with down there? What are you looking for?
First, let me say, I think I remember that game that JMac was just talking about, shifting to 12 personnel.
Whoa, we had a line here, so I didn't name our opponent, but you can figure it out, I think.
No doubt. One of the worst moments in my coaching career, but we had it covered. We just a good Wyndham quarterback threw it to a good Wyndham tight end. And
it wasn't the play call; it was the player making the play.
The Bonnie Eagle defensive back covering wasn't as good as the Wyndham tight end, that's for sure. But certainly a great game. Red zone, let's try to run it in. it's going to be hard passing down there. It's going to be hard for a high school kid to pass down there. It's going to be hard for high school kids to get open unless you got a guy. I think in the pass game, red zone, who's your touchdown maker? That's a guy you got to get it to. Pass game wise, we're probably going to try to throw slant. That's going to be our philosophy. We're going to try to run it in. I think with a run game down in the red zone, the thing you have to deal with is defensive backs are going to be up closer. So you got to find a way to take care of the safety that's going to be up pretty close to the box. So we're going to run jet. We're going to try to get outside, and we're going to crack. So we get a hat on a safety that's screwing down, playing man, maybe on your tight end or something like that. So that's you got to pretty much minimize your package down there, and do what you do best, because you got to get the ball to your touchdown maker. So that's going to be what we do anyways.
All right, I'm going to get on the bigger field now. Coach Lip, going to go to you on this one. You talked earlier this spring about vertical pass game. When you're getting cover two, what are kind of your go-tos and on your call sheet or just in your mind? What do you like against cover two?
Yeah, we haven't seen a lot of cover two recently. Honestly, it's been mostly single high safeties, but like everyone else, we like smash and make it a corner read. Make that guy have to kind of play on underneath the flag or corner or jump the hitch. We would like snag, kind of a similar concept there. We're not afraid to throw four verts and throw a bender in there behind the mic. So just a matter, it's kind of how they're playing cover two as well. Like we've thrown some four verts against it. I remember Bangor in 2012. They're playing kind of tight at 2.5, 3 yards inside funnel, but then we just kind of got back stacked and we're able to kind of run four verts that way too. So it depends kind of how they're playing cover two as well. I heard Coop talking about not letting them get to the sideline and playing it from depth and kind of funnel it in. So it might not work against him. So it depends the type of defense you're seeing. And like I said, we haven't seen a ton lately. And quickly for me, just from the red zone, I thought it was interesting. Like we are going to throw, like we're going to take a shot from the as soon as we get inside the 20 to the 18, 16, we're going to throw one to the end zone. Like we think it's probably easier for us to score from the 16 on a double move. Kempy's frothing at the mouth right now, getting ready to dial up some blitzes and you get in the red zone. So we're going to try to take a shot to our dude. We've had some really good receivers over the years, so we're going to take a shot, if not two, in that situation. So it's interesting to hear the different philosophies as far as that's concerned, but or we'll spread it out and run it. But as far as too high, some of those concepts have worked for us.
Yeah, I would say also too. I mean, we had 2 6'5" tight ends this year, so when we got in the red zone, it wasn't a shock to anybody that's where the ball, that's where the ball was going. And luckily, I learned some slot fade this summer from Coach Lip, so that was pretty good to us down there. Coach Friedman, what about you against two high safety looks? What are your go-tos?
So, like BL said, like Coach Lipper said, I'm a big fan of smash. Different ways to run it. Fade out's always a combination, that we like to one side. I actually like to run Y cross and middle curl. Middle curl is probably one of my favorites. The old Hank concept. We will have 3 curls across at different levels, and a back out on one side, and a number 2 receiver running a speed out that he can convert to a wheel on the other side.
Awesome. Coach Green, I think I know the answer to this ahead of time because, we got to play this year and certainly got to see you a lot. But, when you get man, what's, what are your maybe 1 or 2 go-tos for man beaters?
Yeah, so mesh and shallow, I think, are the 2 obvious ones. We actually prefer shallow over mesh. The real reason we prefer shallow over mesh is maybe I'm just not good enough to coach it. But we feel like our quarterback has a higher percentage chance to actually progressing to the dig rather than a backside mesh. But what we like to do against man is we're not going we don't like to go 2x2. We want to get in something different. I like to condense formations, mess around a little bit. So what Coach Hath is alluding to is, a trips open set with a nasty X or Z on the other side. And we actually like to run the shallow back to the single receiver side. We love that look. We release mandatory outside release dig from number 1 to the one-man side to try and put that overhang safety kind of in a predicament. I mean, our whole offense is kind of about, picking on one guy. And then, from there, we're kind of a rhythm and read team, but we do peak sometimes. So when we get into those situations with mesh and shallow, especially to the one-man side, we really like to release a wheel out of the backfield from our B-back, our backfield back, to that condensed formation side, either to the boundary, to the field, in the middle of the field. We don't care. But we really, once again, we like to put a kid in predicament. So if that overhang does decide to sit and take away the shallow, well, now he's going to have to make a choice between the shallow and the wheel. What does he want to take? And a lot of times, especially up here in Maine, that's a hard cover to make against a kid coming out of the backfield, especially when that kid's probably one of your dudes. And you just pray he has hands. In this case, half nose. He doesn't have hands. But it's something that we really like. On the front side, on the three-man side, when we get into that, we typically combo a post wheel with 1 and 2. We can do some other stuff. We've actually thrown slot fade on that and everything else like that, and really just pin that hitch guy to the sideline so he doesn't get in the way of the shallow. But yeah, shallow by far, and then mesh and shallow for us. Mesh is actually just a shallow tag for us, so we'll just go shallow mesh. And all it does is just change those jobs up a little bit, but primarily shallow. And like I said, we want to somehow out formation you and hope that you don't adjust to it.
I know mesh has been really good to us. We've tried to run it, some different ways as well. We'll run the true mesh. We've had a lot of success, with mesh against the man, but when we run it against zone, we run the over the ball route with the big tight end, and he kind of, if you're in a 4-3, he can kind of play off the mic, or if you're in a 4-2, he can kind of find the seam in between the curl zone backers, and we try to entice those guys with the dig and the post on some other stuff. So that's been pretty good to us, and then we use the tailback out of the backfield a little bit more this year in the mesh game, particularly for the man-to-man teams, or away from trips. Kind of stole it from you guys a little bit, to be honest. But we had hit one early in the year against man, and that was pretty good to us as well. Skip is awful. He's all right. Let's go to run game for a minute. I'll go to Coop down there on this one. You're gonna get an even front. Probably a 3-tech to the strong side. The 2-eye probably to the backside. That 4-2 type of defense. What are the top maybe 2 ways you're going to try to attack that in the run game?
Yeah, so against a 4-man front, zone read's good because you're putting a kid, probably a Maine high school defensive end, probably has not worked very often on bending and taking away your running back. At least that's what we found. So zone read is good. And then when any Maine defensive end that does bend and take the running back, he's going to declare pretty quick. So it's a really clean read for your quarterback to be able to pull it when you get that, to get the bend. And so I like zone read against the 40 and the power read. So some fashion of power read, because again, you're really picking on that guy that probably if a team's running a 40, right, they're putting a guy that they think is pretty darn good. Maybe their biggest ass kicker, they're putting him in that field side defensive end. He may not be as agile, if he's a bigger physical type of guy. And so now you hit him with a power read, and you got that stretch action, and you're reading that guy, and then there's just one guy you don't have to block. And if he's a big physical guy and you don't have to block him, well, that's a win for you as an offensive coach, I think. So, that, and we run a lot of traps good against an even front, because you got kind of that hole in the middle, especially to the 3 technique side. So those would probably be the 3 run schemes that we would run against an even front.
Awesome. What percentage of the plays that you call in a game would you say are read plays for the quarterback in the run game?
I don't know. Probably maybe somewhere between 25 and 50%. Again, we're going to run a lot of trap and we're going to run a lot of tackle wrap. Those aren't reads. We're going to learn our power, regular power. Those aren't reads. But zone's a read. Power reads a read. Those are really our read plays in the run game.
JMac, what about you on the even front? What do you like?
Hey, Sean or Friedman?
Jason McLeod.
My bad.
Even front. Well, I mean, for us, I mean, we see even front. It's all about, detaching the overhang player, and now it's like that. Like spread principles outside the hash. You might be getting in a situation where you're blocking fewer players in the box. Not too dissimilar to what Kevin's doing at Bowling Eagle or a lot of guys doing, but again, I got a pretty experienced O-line coach, and one of the first things he says about the even front is find the 2-eye, JMac, and run at it. It's like, all right, what am I gonna do? Argue with him? So right away we're trying to find the 2-eye, and we're gonna run wrap to the 2-eye. We're gonna run inside zone the 2-eye. And then we have our 3-shade plays where, again, whether in a 2-eye or a 3-shade, we have the ability of flipping the play if we don't get the 3-shade in the side we think we're going to get. So, we tend to try to program the quarterback where, again, if you're facing an even front team, you want to run trap to the 3-shade just based on the team you're playing that week. And, we call, say, trap right and the 3-shades on the other side. We like to program the quarterback just to make a call where we're flipping the play and going the other way. Not necessarily flipping the formation, but just flipping the play the other way so we can get what we want. Those are really small, just basic things that we try to program our quarterback and give him some ownership of what we're going to do on the field. A little bit harder for us last year where, we had a kid that after the first game of the year, we made a switch to a big guy who's going to throw the ball for us a lot. And we took the incumbent and moved him to a slot position, and even more so, that same guy didn't play football his freshman year. So, you're finding out early on you can't do as many of those things as you want, but as the season progresses and matriculates, then you can do a little bit more with them and get yourself in a position, especially on the offensive line side, of getting the angles and the blocks that you want. And again, I'll echo what Cooper said about against these 40 teams with the ends. You get kind of, through my eyes, you get two ways. You get the ends that are programmed to take away one thing, and you get the ends that are good enough to take away two things. And I don't think in this level of ball we're playing, we get defensive ends that can take away two things. Meaning, then down the line, get a quarterback reading their head, and then reroute and come back on the quarterback. So, whether it's power read or zone read, those sort of things help us out. But again, when we're facing odd front teams, we try to get into more 3-man surfaces and run that side. Against even front teams, that's less of a discussion for us, whether, we feel like we can get in 2- and 3-man surfaces and run our run game either side.
I would say it's definitely the case for us too, in terms of the difference between the even and the odd, as we try to go, having that tight end against the odd front makes such a big difference if you've got that guy. Whereas in the even front, you don't need him as much as long as your slots can handle those overhangs. Coach Whip, JMac mentioned, giving the quarterback some ownership of things, and you got a pretty good run on cues at Coney. How much liberty do you give them at the line of scrimmage to either change, from pass to run to pass, maybe change some routes, that sort of stuff?
Depends on, which quarterback and how far along in the development he is. But most of them, by the time they're done, have the ability to do something like JMac said. We'll call, outside zone and, tell him which way we want. We'll alert it, and he just makes a call to flip it. And some of our RPO stuff, he's got the ability to change, based on the leverage of the overhang, whether we're running the slant in behind or we're going to go to the sideline with, 5-yard out. So, and honestly, like, depending on, like when we had Ben Lucas, he had a lot of liberty to do that as a 3-year starter. So, we put some on his plate, but we also don't want to make him, think too much. Our job as a coach is to kind of call the plays and give him 1 or 2 things to think about. I don't want to give him the full menu and say, against this coverage, check it to this, against it, that to me is maybe too much for most high school cues. So we'll give them, a few things, and we'll tag it in the call in the huddle. We'll say alert to kind of make everyone aware that, we could be changing it from, not so much run to pass, although an RPO obviously can do that, but just, whether we're changing the route, the direction the play's going, something of that nature that, our quarterbacks, generally by the end of a year, if they're, the full year starter, they're able to do that. And so they can kind of get us out of some bad plays if we're anticipating, like, we don't know where the 3 tech's going to be or whatever. We give them the opportunity to move it around, by the time they're, toward the end of the season.
Matt, you're getting the odd front. What are you dialing up against the odd front in the run game? What do you like the best?
Well, I like outside zone against everything. That's kind of what I'm going to hang my run game hat on, to at least for our base. If we can't run wide zone, then we're probably in trouble. I'm taking a call on it wide zone more than outside, because we really teach the cut up. We're not trying to make it into a sweep. We're trying to stretch that defensive line horizontally and then punch a hole, probably somewhere B gap to A gap to maybe backside A gap. So odd front, definitely love outside zone. I also like running counter against odd fronts. I think that double on the nose really kind of can get a big crease there on the backside. So those, probably outside zone and counter are my 2 favorites against odd front, definitely.
Coach Green, how about you?
Yeah, so against odd fronts, I mean, obviously, we like to do some trap inside and stuff like that, but primarily we like our sweep game. So Coach Half did a phenomenal clinic on his jet package. That's really our sweep game. We also like our GT counter game. And once again, we like to be able to kind of put a defender in conflict, so that overhang or outside linebacker, depending on what type of look that we're getting there. Is he pushing and peeling? Really setting a good edge out there and containing. If so, hopefully we get a good play side kick up there and can cut the alley. You get a more aggressive look, maybe get a blitz, something like that. We really teach that front side guard or tackle, depending on who's pulling in the situation, to take a good bucket step on that first pull. So, and I think Coach Bach talked about this the other night. So he can really get that depth to get that inside hand and press on the outside of a crashing blitzer and just kind of fold them inside. So, once again, we just like to put a guy in conflict. Sweep for us isn't just, it has to be an alley or it has to hit the edge. It's really up to that play side back, and then the play side guard, and then the back and the backside guard reading that block and kind of determining what type of play it turns into from there. The other thing we like about sweep, obviously, is just the numbers we can get, especially if we, last year we didn't have it, but Coach Half did this plenty. If you have a good quarterback, the amount of numbers you can get out there on sweep, either right up in the alley or as an additional wall or log at the second level, when you bang it to the sideline, has really been great for us. And then we like our stretch too. So outside zone that Coach Friedman was talking about as well. Just kind of picking and choosing. Do we want to break it vertical, or does it end up out on the edge? But yeah, sweeps definitely our jam against odd.
I asked Coach Capone to get a couple of questions for me today. So one of the ones he gave me was, what do I like against quarters coverage? Both in the run game and the pass game. And, we play some quarters coverage and typically when we do, we're trying to do it so that we can get more guys in the box and more guys in the run game and get our safeties, up closer and where they really can be a bonus player there. So, a couple things we try to do. We'll try to crack the safety by compressing the formation some, and bringing guys down closer with their split and kind of taking our chance with the puller, maybe getting out to the corner, or just taking our chance one-on-one with the back in the corner. Typically, those guys don't want to tackle as much as the safeties. Certainly, in the run game against quarters, typically those safeties are going to try to be rolling. Good. Hold on. Okay. Typically, those safeties in the quarters coverage are going to roll. One of them is going to try to come up hard on the play side against our jet sweep action, and the other safety is usually we either trying to run through the backside alley or rolling back to a place. So we'll run a lot of quarterback counter. As I've said on a couple talks, we had a scheme this year we used where we ran jet one way, and GT counter the other way, and we kind of let the quarterback choose before the play which one he was gonna do based on numbers, counting to each side and just taking a look before the snap if they've overloaded one side or maybe when we go in motion or they roll in the safeties already. So that was pretty good to us. And then play action, I think, is the number one thing, and get some crossing routes in there. Crossing routes and play action are going to be difficult for both the linebackers and the safeties to handle. We'll run just a lot of waggle concepts, to be honest. Regular waggle with a front side corner, and we'll have the play side slot kind of play action to give the safety a run look, and then we call it a slam route, and then he'll kind of delay into the flat, and then we'll drag have some different tags that we use for the backside with some different concepts to drag across the field, and then we run waggle, what I call waggle switch. We have another term for it, but we run that a ton where the number one receiver runs an out. Number two is now attacking that safety, and he's going to give him kind of the stutter move like he's going to block him, and then he's going to break to the corner. And again, this year with those two big kids that we had, that was a heck of a play for us to be able to run those guys at the safety and then break them out deep and throw the ball up to them was pretty nice. So in terms of quarters, that's kind of how we try to attack it. Coop, is there a way that you guys try to attack it?
Yeah, in the run game, a lot of crack from the outside onto those safeties. So we run jet, part of our jet sweep. If we have jet called, we're cracking, and then we're going to lead with our running back on the corner. And so we can do that too when we just run stretch or Q sweep or anything like that. So you got to find a way to block those guys. I mean, if a team's running quarters, it's generally to stop the run, and they're probably got a couple of safeties that are pretty good at doing it. So you got to block those guys more than you block the corners. Otherwise, they're going to give you fits in the run game. So you got to get a crack on them, or you got to get a running back lead on them or something like that to be able to block them. They got to be in your count in the run game. I think in the pass game, you try to get your fast athletic kid onto that safety. So, if he's a good quarters safety, he's probably a good box defender. Well, how is he defending your fastest, most agile athlete? Because that's what he's going to have to do. So you can pretty much get him up the field, and whether you're going to run a corner ball or some sort of post move or something like that, get your athlete onto that box safety and see what you can get out of it. And then after that, can you in the quarters, can the cornerback take away quick inside moves? So when we play quarters, we're going to play hard inside with our corner because we don't want to get hit with a slant. If you're going to run our safety out, we don't want to get hit by a slant behind it, because that's a pretty easy throw and catch. But I don't see all quarters teams doing that. So a lot of quarters teams keep their safeties back, either really back far or back and outside the number one receiver, so you can get slant on them. So those would be pass game wise. The first couple things that I would try to do is get your fast slot on that box safety fast, or work your outside receiver if he happens to be your best guy. Work him against that cornerback that's going to be playing off, and see if you can get inside moves like slants and skinny posts and things like that.
Get a couple here I want to make sure we hit before we wrap this thing up that we're in here. One of the questions, Coach Lip had a good one, was if you have a rugged 6'1", 220-pound, relatively athletic kid that moves well, is he a tackle or a guard in your system? So we'll just kind of go around the horn real quick. I'll start with that one, BL. That's Tommy Casey for us. And he started the year at tackle, and then midway through the year or third of the way through the year, we had an injury. We moved him to guard. I would just say in terms of assembling our offensive line, because we slide protect so much, the right tackle, because our quarterback is right-handed, although he throws probably as well left as he does right, but we feel like the right tackle is in that slide protection on that defensive end a lot. So I like to have if I get a kid that's athletic like that and he's rugged and maybe he's a hoop guy too, I'm probably putting that kid there. We always feel like we can get away with some different types of guards as long as they have different, pretty good feet. Certainly if you can put a kid like that at guard and have the luxury of pulling and trapping him, that's pretty good. But we feel like we can teach a lot of different kids to pull and trap. But in terms of pass protection on the edge, and particularly right now in the situation we're in with a mobile quarterback, it makes a lot of sense to have that kid at tackle for us. So, if I had my preference, I'd put him there if I didn't have something else there. So, Coach JMac, how about you?
I don't think you put labels on a guy by his size, whether it's height or weight, in terms of his position. I mean, obviously you got to have the variances there where a guy fits in athletically, but I'll give you two extreme examples, and one just happened this past season where we're kind of trying to rebuild the Portland roster. We're scouring the hallways, trying to get kids who can help out the program. And we get a kid that came in the program. He's between 6'3", 6'4", and right now he's about, I'd say, between 230 and 235. And right away, Coach Capone and I are salivating because he's going to be a athletic guard or an athletic tackle for us. And through our first 2 or 3 workouts, we found out he had arguably the best hands on our team. And, for us, he'll line up as a tight end for us. And then, you can kind of apply those offensive line techniques with him, whether you're pulling him on a counter Y scheme or you haven't reached the edge and you're helping us out that way. But he helped us out last year as a very good receiver for us. And, in his first year playing football in 3 years. So, and then the other way is, again, I've coaching Mike Landry for, a couple of years, and we've had some 5'8", 155-pound centers. And it's just, he wanted that guy who can snap the ball quick and get down low on a cover defender and do some things there. So, we try not to place labels on guys, but at the end of the day, for us, if we want to throw the ball and you can't catch, I don't care how big or small you are. If you can't catch, you're wearing a number between 50 and 79, period in the story. Because we're not going to put guys out there who can't catch the ball. You're wasting our time. So, I think I've had all ends of the spectrum of that example that BL brought up, and that's how you treat it.
Coach Friedman, how about you on that one?
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking when I first saw that 6'1", 220. That sounds like DJ Allen to me. So he's playing tight end for me if it's DJ. But I've had guys that are that big and are athletic, and DJ Sam Baker that have played a receiver spot for me, or I've had guys like that have been our left tackle. Like you said, Mike, I'd love to have a guy like that play guard where you can pull him. But chances are he's probably one of your bigger guys, and you're going to want to have him on the edge. We're not a slide protect team. We're big on big, so probably with a right-handed quarterback, that would be my left tackle.
All right, gonna mix it up here and go to Sean and Coop on this one. This was another one. Have you had some regular success with RPOs? How beneficial do you think they are to have in there? And are you finding if you do have them in there, there's enough practice time, with maybe a lot of guys going both ways or whatever, to make it a fairly regular part of your offense? So, Sean, start with you on that one.
Yeah, great question. It actually pertained to us last year. So, I love RPOs. I've run them pretty much my whole career. Last year we didn't think we quite had the dude to do it. And, it was year one and we just wanted to get all of our base in and things like that. I guess what I'll say about RPOs is they are expensive. It's going to take some time. It's going to take some practice, a lot of reps, Indies group, all of it. Even in our group, group run game, we'll have our quarterback working his RPO game, and just doing those exchanges. But if you stick to it and you want to put in the work, the return on investment is crazy high. I absolutely love it. I think, there's a couple different ways to do it. I think, a standard locked RPO where you're really reading one guy at the second level, is definitely the easiest. And I think it's just really easy, especially if you're a zone guy. On our locked RPOs, we love to just pair it with inside zone, and read the second level defender to the pass concept side, and then just run our zone back. And basically we love stick and snag off of it. We like glance, which I know I've seen BL do. in some of his clinics here. And then to kind of take that next level to it, you can kind of unlock the RPO and read the end man on the line of scrimmage, and then read the overhang for kind of a triple RPO look. But that's one of those things where you just have to have a guy. You have to have a guy like Wyatt, a dude at quarterback who can make that read. When we do those unlocked looks, what we like to do is we like to bubble number 2, preferably, and we like to glance number 1 to try and get some overhang influence. If he just flies outside with that bubble while the quarterback has a run lane now, he can just take it. Or, if he shows a hard flat look on that to take away the bubble instead of like a spot drop look, you're going to be able to bury an easy glance in there pretty quick. So, but yeah, that's my take on RPOs. Expensive, but return on investment really high.
Coop?
Yeah, I think if you're a zone read team, they're probably pretty crucial. You got to be able to have an outlet for the quarterback. If he gets a pull read from his initial keep read, you got to be able to give him something to be able to outlet the ball in case another defender comes in his face. So you got to be able to have it. Otherwise, you might as well just put it back in the backfield and become a triple team. So if you want to be a spread team, you want to run zone read, I think you have to have some component of RPO. I think with, how they've kind of taken the offensive football world by storm over the past 8 years or so, I think you can probably go too much in them. Like, honestly, you probably aren't going to run them a ton. Like, if we run bubble twice, if we run, something off the inside backer, like number 3, just run a little pop pass. If that happens every other game, if we run what a lot of people call the smoke screen, we call it spot screen with the number 1 receiver, kind of 3 steps, retracer steps, that type of thing. If we run that once every other game, I mean, that's probably all we're running. So it's 4 times in a couple of games on average, I think. So it's not I don't consider it a huge part of our call system, but I think it's a pretty important part of our overall scheme. Teams have got to know we can do it. You got to establish it. And so what we found is what teams will generally do to us on defense now is we'll force them into more man coverages, because typically high school defenses, at least in this state, they don't want to take linebackers and worry about RPOs. They want linebackers, downhill fillers, playing the run, especially against. We think we run the ball pretty good. You gotta have some guys in the box to be able to stop our run, and so how are you going to stop our RPOs too? So that presents a problem for the defense. Like I said, am I going to call it that much? Are we going to get to it that much? No, but it's a pretty important part of the overall general offense that you're running. I think from a practice point of view, I would agree with what Coach Green is saying. A little expensive just in terms of your quarterback and your receivers perfecting the throw. Like I don't think a ride time for that quarterback with the back coming through and then throw the bubble basically without a step. That's kind of different from a quarterback. What a quarterback practices his entire time growing up as a quarterback is step and throw, right? And now you're asking him to throw it a little bit different. So I think the throw part of it for a quarterback has got to be repped, and you got to rep it. And so we're going to rep it every offensive practice in preseason, and then every Tuesday our offensive practice during the season. We're going to rep those throws for 5 minutes with someone being a running back. It probably won't be our running backs because they're doing other stuff, but our quarterback taking his ride, popping, throwing the bubble. We're gonna have to rep that 5 minutes every offensive practice, because otherwise the throw and the catch are pretty difficult. I think the read part of it for a quarterback is pretty easy. Like, we have never struggled with our quarterbacks teaching them, here's what you're reading on an RPO, here's how you read it, execute the read. Generally, they get it pretty quickly. So, so I think that those are some of the things that you got to think about in the RPO game as an offensive coach.
Yeah, I'll finish on that one because we do run them a fair amount. Obviously, our quarterback has some experience, and he's been around the game for a while, so he's got some pretty good instincts for it. But like Coop said, it is something in the preseason during doubles. Those are throws and footwork with the quarterback that we're working on every single time. We don't have a ton of different ways that we do it. But we do rep those throws a lot. Both in the Indy period, the quarterbacks will just rep them with each other on kind of the mesh and the footwork. And then when we get to our group period, and we have kind of an option drill that we do every day, where we basically just have a script of read plays that we roll through, and we have two offenses and just spin them in and out, and we'll work that into the script every time. We run it off inside zone. We don't run a lot of bubble. I found that the wider the quarterback has to throw the ball, the better, and the worse, and probably the less he sees. We love to run inside zone and read the backside backer. We've made some real good hay with that for about 3 years now. We run. We kind of give the number 2 receiver. He'll kind of run. Basically a stick, or sometimes he'll bend it a little bit, depending on how hard the backer fills. We really tell him his aiming point is 2 yards outside of where the backer starts. Get 2 yards above him and 2 yards outside him. And then we run a slant with number 1 from that side too. And we work hard with the quarterbacks on it. If you do pull it and, it's man and the safety jumps it real hard, what are you going to do? And we've worked hard on him resetting his feet, kind of repointing his shoulder and just trying to drive that slant in there, or just airmailing it over his head. So that we don't get caught. The other one that we've used a fair amount, and we like it a little bit better off jet. We should have hit it twice against Coach Green this year, but we overthrew one and we dropped one. But we'll run on the backside of jet, and we pull our guards and kind of everything with it. But we'll just run. We run away from the tight end. We'll run the tight end down the seam. And lots of times we do it out of empty. So we'll go tight end trip, say to the left. We'll go slot split to the right. Run jet to the right, and we'll send the tight end down the seam. And he's taught to kind of look quick. If the backer is way gone, he might get it quick. But when we played coach, we read the free safety because they were one high, and he was such a good alley player that we felt like he'd be super aggressive on jet, and maybe we could get him. And then we run that same slant with number 1 from the back to give him just a check down in case he pulls it and then all of a sudden doesn't like it. He can either try to drive that thing in there or just chuck it over his head, and we'll take it incomplete. So I would say we run a lot of different ones, but those two we work pretty hard right from day one and have them in there all the time and work. And one of the things that we're going to kind of add this year is I've seen a lot of guys talking about the pre-snap gift. So we may have some inside runs where we come up to the line of scrimmage and there's a front side combo that the quarterback can throw if he likes it pre-snap. And if he doesn't, then he can go ahead and just read the RPO with the inside run and the backside one. So that's something I want to mess around with because we got a guy with some experience and we feel like he can come to the line of scrimmage and do that. So that's probably us in that. So Coach Lip, I'm going to go last one to you before we open this up to everybody. I got to find this question again. I think this was a Coach Coop question. In terms of handling blitz and pressure, what are some things that you do there? You like to move the pocket with the quarterback. I know you're a big screen guy too. Do you try to work a lot of screen game in? You've seen a lot of blitz. What are you going to do to combat that?
Yeah, I mean, we try to get the back involved in the pass game as much as we can, but if, we're expecting blitz, then he'll stay in. Screen hasn't been as great for us recently, running back screen or tunnel screens or anything. It's been okay. Not as good as it's been in the past, but last year we sprinted out more than we threw drop back when we did the stats up. So we sprint out a lot. You asked that quarters question, like we would sprint out and run like a sail concept, a vertical and a 10-yard out or a 10-yard, corner ball, whatever you want to call it. We'll run comeback, we'll run, wheel stop. So we'll move the pocket as best we can. But I feel like the more people you bring in the box, whether it's an H-back, a tight end, I think the more susceptible you are to blitz because just people are closer. We're an empty. I think it's easier to identify what's going on. And we try to build in, I'm not sure you call them hot routes, but just a quarterback knows what's the best man beater in this concept. So As long as he's got an awareness for, where people are. And teams typically run the same blitzes, so you might have an idea going into the week, what they look like. So your quarterback should be well versed on that. But yeah, screens ideally, move the pocket, get the ball out of your hand.
Yeah, we'll try to move the pocket. By the way, that wheel comeback is unfair. You shouldn't be allowed to run that. That one kills us all the time when we play 7-on-7. That's a good concept. I like that one a lot. We try to do it, but we don't do it as well as you. But we certainly try to move the pocket a fair amount and sprint out when we're getting a lot of that. Obviously it depends on who the quarterback is a little bit. Before Wyatt, we had Timmy Albert, who was just a bigger pocket style thrower, and we just tried to build in. That was the year we kind of went and stopped running a lot of mirrors, and we just started putting a lot of backside tags on our routes, and we tried to run a lot of shallow with either number 1 or number 2 on the backside, so that we could just throw right into that blitz and just put it right where that guy left. We try to let our quarterback, similar to what BL would do, know, if this guy's coming and we don't have enough because we're an empty, this is where the ball needs to go, or we try to, move the pocket a little bit more. So 9:15, fellas. I'm gonna wrap it up on that one and let guys. That was a good one. We could go all night, I think, but we'll let guys come in, and we definitely could go all night. But we'll let guys come in, turn your mics on, turn your cameras on, get some questions in with these guys, and we'll answer anything you want. Coach Soren, you're up first, man. You're first guy in.
All right. How do you guys use your booth, guys? Guys up in your booth.
Good question. Coach Litt, I'm going to go to you first because I don't even think you have a headset on, do you?
No, I've got enough thoughts in my head that are scary. I can't have other people's thoughts coming into my head, so I don't wear one. JMac can attest to that because he was at the Lobster Bowl, and he kind of asked me every play when I came back from telling the quarterback. I told him to play. So, he'll talk to one of our guys on the headset, and he'll in the first half we'll try to communicate stuff, but at halftime I'll sit down with we have a guy. My dad's kind of the defensive guy in the booth, and then Chris Sturgeon's the guy that's our offensive guy. So we'll sit down and kind of confirm some stuff that we both are seeing. Probably would work more effectively if I wore a headset. But if he has something that I'll put it on occasionally just to ask him a question. So in the first half, he's just he'll draw up the looks as he sees them. So okay, here's the first time we're in trips. This is what they were in. And change it, I guess, if it changes dramatically within the first half. And we'll look at that stuff at the half if need be.
Coach Green, you've been in the booth fairly recently, and now you're calling plays on the sideline. So what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, being in the booth is awesome. It's one of my favorite places to be. If I could be there as a head coach and I had the right guy down on the field, I'd do it. But yeah, I mean, in a perfect world, I like to have 2 guys up there, and usually it's like an O-line, D-line coach, and then maybe a safeties coach or something like that. I have one guy looking at the box, concentrating on, inside backers, D-line and things like that. And the other guy looking at our DBs and overhangs and, opposite on offense, right? One guy looking at the O-line play, F and Y play, and then a guy in the perimeter and quarterbacks. It works well if you have the guy to do it. I mean, one of the issues that I've had in the past with that is, those guys hate me because they can't just open up and watch the game like a fan, but, hopefully they understand that that's, not what they're hired to do. And, that's always worked best for me. And I know it worked good for Mike back in Littleton as well.
Coach Coop, how about you?
So I'll try to have a guy watch the front, watch another guy watches the back end of things, especially trying to get eyes on the opposite side from where our sideline is. I mean, generally we can see stuff that's happening in front of us. It's harder to see the stuff away from you, right? And so guys up top have got to be able to focus in on the anything happening on the field towards the opponent's sidelines. But honestly, we use huddle sidelines. So, I mean, we got guys on the sideline that are seeing the play or can see the play within seconds after it's done, and they're on the sidelines and they see it. So it's not like we have to have anything really elaborate. It's more, what are you seeing like right now before the snap? What are you seeing? What are you seeing almost immediately? What happened? Just for quick feedback. But 6 seconds after the play, our guys on the sidelines have the ability to watch it. So I don't know how, that's certainly taking the the need for having good booth guys away. Now that you get replay right on the sideline.
Yeah, I know. Just to chime in one thing, I have Bill County up in the booth, which is awesome because he's won 2 state championships as a head coach. But substitutions by the defense is always, sometimes you're calling a play or looking at your play sheet or whatever, and or maybe there's a guy out there who's dragging a leg and he doesn't look so good. So there's a lot of good little things like that, like this corner just jogged off, might have rolled his ankle. Here's this sophomore, in there. Let's go with him. So that's been good. We do have them drawing index cards, formations from the first half. So, the first time we run a formation, they'll draw it, or maybe after the series, they'll even go back and just draw it from the huddle sideline. And then at halftime, we kind of have a visual to look at without having to dial back through the clips on sideline. So, that's been helpful as well. So.
Great.
Coach Goff?
Yeah, my question is pertaining to your play calling out of the spread offense. It certainly sounds like Coach Lip likes to sling the ball around the yard quite a bit. Does that philosophy change once you get into the latter part of October into November when weather starts to become more of a factor?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a great question. It's something that we struggle with. The years we've made deep runs, the weather seemed to be a little bit better. So yeah, it's a concern. And so obviously you want to be able to do both. We've had years, 2016, we had 0 run game whatsoever. But we threw it around pretty well, went to the Eastern Maine semis and almost knocked off a pretty good Brewer team. So, over the course of that year, we tried to develop something we could kind of counter with. But we try to develop a pass game too that can work in all weather. Obviously if it's, 32 degrees and raining sideways, that gets a little bit difficult. But we also, tend to run the quarterback a fair amount too, so we get an extra hat in the box, spread people out and try to run the quarterback if that needs to be. It's kind of what we did in the home playoff game this year. And our home field is horrendous. It's probably the worst one in Maine. So our field's really, really bad. It's a major concern. So if we could get turf, it might help with that. But yeah, that's a major concern because we've thrown it 50 times in a playoff game before, and if the weather's not good, that can be an issue.
JMac, how about you?
Yeah, great question. I 2 scenarios or situations I've been in, but in 09, Western A championship, we're playing a Chevrolet team, and all week long we have a very acute understanding of where Chevrolet is going to be, where their dudes are, and we felt that we're going to go into that game and we're going to throw the ball 40, 45 times that game. We had the kid to do it. We had the guys who can catch the ball. And right around 10:30 in the morning of a 12:30 p.m. game, it is pouring. And we have a grass field too at the time, so it was just awful, and we had to adapt. Pretty quickly, and it didn't take us. Beginning of the game, we were coming off really slow, and at halftime we adapted some more, and we got out of it with a win. But we went from a game that we were going to planning to throw the ball 40, 50 times, to probably throwing it about 4 times that game. So there's that part. Obviously the field conditions play a big factor in the things where now I'm on a school where we have a turf field, a very nice one at that. And I'll go back to, a coach said to me a long time ago where, if it's raining outside, the offense may have an advantage because you know where you're going and the defense doesn't. You may be a step behind on things. So don't totally alienate your run game if it's raining outside or the conditions are awful, because you may have that advantage over your opponent where you know where you're going and the quarterback's knowing where you're going as well, where the defender may be a step behind because of the conditions. So that's the best I can tell you in regards to that.
Yeah, I would just follow up with, for us, we have a grass field too, and in the playoffs, it does, I see Coach Costin on here. Our field, was in decent shape for that game for what it looked like earlier in the week, but it certainly was a little bit of a factor going in. And I just always see my pass game as more of a play action deal when you get to that point than I do I'm going to try to move the chains with 3-step type of deal. So, and for just what JMac said, it's going to be hard for defenders who are in conflict to change direction and move their feet. So, we were lucky to hit a couple in that game. And, you can get the defender who falls down. Like I try to use it as a big play thing. So I'm not going to throw as much in those games, but I'm going to try to hit something, at some point. I'm certainly not going to go away from it. But I think you always have to have the runs that you're going to hang your hat on for late in the season and Nate. If you're a shotgun team, you got to have something that you can do at that point. So, anything else, Coach?
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, Coach Bowker?
Sean, for your when you're going 3x1 shallow, is your post wheel your peak, or is that the wheel out of the back, or is the wheel your rhythm throw?
So for us, usually the concept is the rhythm. So if it's called shallow is going to be our rhythm. Our peak would be that backfield wheel. So honestly, that post wheel,
just for your guys who run post wheel,
but it's just window dressing, man. Unless we see something and we want to come back to it, like Coach said on huddle sideline. But yeah, our peak is that B wheel, and you just kind of keep, you peak the leverage of that overhang in that corner real quick, and it's not a hard read for a quarterback to make at all.
Anything else, Coach?
I'm good.
Okay, Coach Costin? Coach Costin disappeared. Anybody else? Coach Cludier, Coach Goff, Coach Soren?
Anybody who runs power read, are you guys running the power toss out of it as well? We run it as a power swing. We throw it. We don't toss it. It just, for whatever reason, our quarterbacks like that better. Coach Friedman, you guys are dabbling in that?
Yeah, go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, we started running power toss about mid-season last year as kind of a little bit of a change of pace for us. We were kind of read game stuff anyways, and we ran toss, so we just kind of meshed power read and with the toss, and it was a nice little addition for us. It helped. It was a real clean read, I think, for the quarterback. I think it's actually easier than faking the stretch or the jet sweep and reading with the quarterback diving inside. I think it's easier for him to just maybe we would teach our quarterback to shuffle 2 steps, and he preferred the typical old style toss. But we told him he could pitch it, he could swing it if he wanted to. But for him, it was the 2-handed bucket toss. But he really liked how clean that read was for him and how it really forced that end man on the line to commit. So it was a nice little change up for us mid-season.
100%. Yeah, that was same deal for us in 2017. And then we put it in preseason in 2018. And we're like, this is too good. It's not expensive. And we wanted to kind of throw it out there. So we had them take kind of a run at the outside shoulder of the defensive end to kind of really force the issue for him. But sometimes he'll go to throw, the kid will jump up, and then our quarterback 2 years ago just tucked it up and ran behind the guard. It was really nice. And we've gotten to a point where I think teams need to declare what they're going to do in 3x1. So if we are wherever the back is, like we kind of almost have a check where we're either going to run the power swing or we're going to run power read going the other way based on where, do they have an overhang? Are they putting more guys to the trips, or are they weak to the single receiver? And we'll do that both ways with back strong to trips and back weak to trips as well. You're just kind of trying to make them wrong.
Yeah, definitely.
Also on that, and I think Coach Friedman saw him too, if you're looking for a great resource for that, a guy named Jason Mons out of Seguro High School out in Arizona. I think he's got a full clinic on Coach's Choice that covers just that. He's got some phenomenal stuff. I know Coach Friedman liked him. I spent some time with him. I'm stealing a couple things from him myself, but that was something he does really, really well. And he's just a guy who's gonna dig into the intricacies of everything and the technique, and definitely highly recommended.
Coach Flip, you saw him on Grant and Eddie, right? On outside zone.
Mons, well, Yeah, and I saw him down in Glacier, down in Boston too. Yeah, a couple sessions.
I mean, the guy's literally like invited our staff out to Arizona. I call him on his cell phone. He'll answer right now. He's phenomenal. This guy coaches the USA team. He coached the Under Armour All-America game. He's going to be one of the next big names I think we see, make that high school to college jump.
Yeah.
Awesome. Coach Costin, you got anything? Any questions? Lost him again. York guys.
Are any guys who are no huddle? Are you huddling coming out of timeouts? Are you huddling like on the sidelines coming out of quarters? Have you done any muddle huddle where it's just the old line that's huddling that's like 3 yards behind the line of scrimmage, but receivers are still going out and doing their thing?
Lots of times you'll see our O-line will just do it, not by instruction, but will just do it on their own. Like they'll kind of just check with each other to make sure they've got the right call almost a couple yards behind the line of scrimmage, and they can do it because the receivers are kind of lining up, so it times out all right. So a little bit with that.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else?
We toyed around with muddle huddle a little bit in preseason. Honestly, I think we might maybe look at it a little bit again this year. But new staff at a new school, we decided there was too many moving parts, so muddle huddle got set aside.
Coach Costin, we'll try to get you this time. You got a question?
Yeah, you got me now?
Yeah, we got you.
All right. So my former high school coach, Mass, he sees a ton of cover 4. What do you guys feel like you see the most of from a spread perspective? Is it 4 at this point, 2, 3 man, or combination coverages that we're seeing a lot of?
Coop, you want to take that one?
Yeah, I don't know if there's one thing over the other. I mean, I think it's all the philosophy of the opposing coach. I mean, when we play Thornton, it's going to be man and quarters. Kevin's going to stay in a 2 safety defense majority of time against us. When we play Scarborough, Lance is going to stay a lot of times in a 1 safety defense. Although he has ways to get in a 2 safety defense too and play some quarters. So. I think it's more what the opposing coach wants to do, what his philosophy is. I mean, I really can't say that we're seeing 2 all the time or we're seeing quarters all the time. I mean, I would say against us, I mean, teams are gonna know we want to run the ball first. So we're gonna see run stopping coverages the most. And if a team wants to play cover 2 against us, I mean, we're probably gonna run the ball for pretty good clip. So I would say against us, that would be the one probably constant is we're going to see coverages are going to be designed to get run defenders in the box.
Lip, what about you guys?
I think we throw so many RPOs that we see a lot of man. Coop talked about that as like kind of the easiest way is just cover down and allow that linebacker to get in the box and not have to be a kind of a player that's in conflict. So we see a lot of man free or single high. We see cover 3 as well. So some too high. Gardner's played a lot of too high. We played Lewiston this year. We don't coming up, but mostly single high. And depending on how successfully we're throwing RPOs, we see a lot of man free.
Seems like for us, when we see the even fronts, it's a lot of 1 high, and when we see the odd fronts, it's a lot of 2 high. And we saw more man, just straight man this year than I've ever seen in my career. I've never seen this many teams play straight man. And I don't know if it's because of the RPOs or it's just the philosophy of those coaches. Like we opened up with Herman and they played cover 0 almost the entire game, which honestly we hadn't seen a lot of that. We'd seen a lot of single high, a lot of even front single high teams for a while, and then there was kind of a transition to a lot more odd fronts with 2 high and teams playing quarters or match or some kind of look like that. JMac, what about you?
Yeah, all over the place. I mean, coaching with a guy like Mike Rutherford the last couple of years, we've hung our hats on, playing man and being able to adapt a little bit. But what we found was, when we were playing man, when we made the transition to zone, it was much harder for us versus starting in zone and then, asking to play man later on. So, you go from that end of the spectrum to, like my time at Wyndham, I don't think we ever went man, ever. It may look like man, but very rarely were we doing it. So, and then, this past season, we played a Biddeford team that was running the old school Mike Landry defense, and they hung their hats on playing man the entire game long. It didn't matter. It could have been, I don't know, 3rd and 20, and they're gonna play man. They don't give two craps about it. So we were trying to FSL them, we were trying to motion guys, and it didn't matter. They're playing man versus a team like Marshwood, who a really good team, really well put together, very well coached. They really didn't need to play that coverage because they had the guys to cover space in the zone concept, and they were really good at it, and it didn't really matter. So. I think it's all over the board, and, to Lip's point, and to Coop's point early on is, you see these teams run the RPOs, and that was one of the questions I asked was, what do you do to stop it? And I remember, Lance Johnson telling me, I think 2 years ago, what are these RPO teams going to do when you show a man against them? And, it makes things a little bit tougher. And you're taking something away from their playbook that they devoted time to during the week, and you're taking it away and making them go to something else. Well, it's a second or third level thing. So, that's kind of what I see. But it's the end all be all to it is you see things all over the board.
Awesome. Take one more question, fellas, if anybody's got one, and then we'll shut this down. We're on 2 hours. So everybody's good?
Is anyone looking at like running duo, or it's basically like Tony DeMeo, more vertical double teams on their inside zone, and the path of the back? Has anyone been looking into that? Because we stink at inside zone, but we're trying to still get more at a 45, and we want to get the cutback. We want to hit the open B gap, but we hadn't done it more downhill or like veer. Like we want to be more of that, and I didn't know if anybody had kind of looked into because what we're putting in inside zone, we're not getting a return on the investment.
Coop, you seem to be nodding your head there. You got anything on that?
Yeah, we haven't done it yet, but we're in the process of investigating duo significantly and want to add it to our package. So, I mean, I'm not in the position where I could talk intelligently about it, but it's something that is very attractive. If anybody didn't catch Brian Scott's clinic a couple days ago, go back and watch it. If you're thinking about duo, go back and watch it. They were doing some pretty good stuff in Maine too. I mean, the Maine guy said the other night, Coach Deneke said that duo's their number one run deal. So it's something we definitely want to check out and make sure that if it's something we can add, we want to be able to add it.
Coach Deneke is awesome too. Go ahead, Friedman.
I was going to say another great resource is Nick Caduti on YouTube. He's put out a bunch of videos on duo and really great explanation of what it is. It's something that we've looked at too. I think maybe it's more of an option in what we're doing at Mount Blue now than what I maybe did in the past at Skowhegan. I was more of, one back personnel most of the time. And so for duo, you got to have that. You got to have a tight end, or you got to have an H back there that's going to give you that extra block you need. So, it's something that we're going to look at because we're a lot more 20 personnel now than I was maybe in the past.
Mm-hmm. And you don't think you can still run that like zone read?
I've seen it done. Coach James Vint had some stuff on running duo with the read, with it, making it an RPO basically. But I think if I'm going to run it, if I'm first going to start running it, I'm going to run it, with the true power without the pull, the two double teams, having your back, just reading that Mike and cutting off his movement.
Yeah, I would say Coach Deneke at Maine is awesome, and he's been I've reached out to him a few times on some things, and he's been super accessible. I haven't been able to convert his clinic talk up but he did a pretty good one. If I get it converted, I'll certainly put it up there. If there's a way I can send it to you, I will. But he would be a great guy to talk to. I know for us, just one thing we've looked at in kind of our off-season research is we don't run a lot. We used to, when we ran Tony DeMeo triple, a lot of same side runs for the tail, and we just haven't done that. The past few years, hardly at all for any of our run game. He's constantly crossing the face of the quarterback. So we felt like that might be something that we might be able to do that with. But at the same time, I'm like Coop. I'm trying to investigate a little bit more to see how much different it really is in inside zone and if the additional teaching is worth it. One of the things that we've looked at a little bit is jet motion. Maybe even you and I talked about this or somebody, but some jet motion and running the jet guy on a bubble path and having the quarterback read it like he would read beer, and trying that. We used to run that with arc motion a ton back in the day, and then we changed it to instead of the pitch, he was the bubble guy. We messed around with it a little bit last year, and it wasn't. We had a little bit of a hard time with it, so we never really ran it in the game. But that was, I think, just for us, more same side tailback runs to try to break our key a little bit of them constantly crossing the face, and that might be a way to do it.
Yeah, I was going to say it might have been we were having that conversation.
Yeah, I think it was.
About our jet because I'm like, just based on the formation, like you could run so much and running the jet and then just adding the triple component to it with whatever inside run play you're doing has got to be a must for us.
Right. I've even wondered if you could run that guy in jet motion and have the third look be, you can run run the tail, run the Q, where he can pull it and throw smoke screen to number one, and the jet motion back can pin the corner, and you can run something like that maybe. So that's something let's take a look at too.
Yeah, and Brian Scott's talk. I mean, they were running mostly RPOs with Duo.
Yeah.
But he did have some clips, and they were from practice, like Old Dominion's practice. So it didn't seem like he wanted to run the read part in an actual game, but they were messing around with both having a read like it's a zone read with Duo, and also throwing the RPOs with Duo. So, I mean, I think that's, and he even mentioned that most of his clips again were they had tight end, and then the H back right behind it. So they had to have both those guys in there in the majority of their schemes. But he even said, if he could do it again, he'd get that H back out and make him a receiver and spread the defense a little bit more. Which that's what if we're going to do Duo, that's